What's up, guys? So we are here today. Obviously it's a little bit loud because we're at a construction site today, but we got a house. We're at the framing stage, so this is pretty obvious. Not really much I'm going to tell you that you don't know. We're framing a house today. They're building the frame, but we're going to walk inside and talk about some of the maybe lesser known points of framing, just so you can kind of see what's going on during this stage. So let's go. One of the things you'll notice in the framing part of the house is that over any opening, you're going to see a big, wider piece of wood. This is probably a 2x10, maybe a 2x12 over top of a door. So basically it's any place where it doesn't have the support of a stud coming down, has to have a thicker piece of wood that can withstand the load over top of it. So the longer that span is, the wider that piece of wood needs to be. Sometimes it even has to be like a metal piece or a manufactured piece of some sort if the span is, 12 plus feet wide. Another thing you notice if you come into a house being framed like this is there's all kinds of pieces of wood, temporary pieces of wood. These are barely really even connected, but obviously they're there to hold everything in place as we continue to add more and more support to the house. These will obviously all be taken out once this is all done, and all of it's supported by the other things we've talked about, the headers in place, the plywood around the sides. The further along we get, the more sound the structure gets. So we talked a little bit about headers over top of doors. Here's a good example of one that's holding a lot of load over a longer period of time. That is called LVL. That's actually an engineered piece of wood that is meant to hold as much load as possible. So that's one of those points where you're holding a lot of weight. You can see all these boards over top are all sitting on that beam, and there's no wood underneath them to support it. So you have to have a really strong piece of wood over top that's going to hold all that load. So it's another example of the engineering that goes into the framing of this house. So we're standing here on the side of the house. You can see we have what's called Tyvek wrap. Basically what this is doing is its biggest role is moisture. It's keeping water out. Even the best siding, brick, vinyl, whatever, is not going to keep all water out. So this is kind of your last point of defense. What it's covering up, we didn't get here in time, but you might be able to see up here is big sheets of plywood that wrap the whole house. What that's actually doing is adding all the support that you need, because your framing can do this. It can sway back and forth, but once it's locked in with a piece of plywood, it keeps it from doing what we call racking. So that's probably one of the single biggest sources that's going to make your house good and sturdy. Probably wondering, what are these big orange pipes sticking out of the ground? Well, that is called conduit. So that just creates a nice protective housing that goes around wiring that's going to run from one house to the next. So you can see these pipes down here are going down into the ground all the way over there where they're coming out. So it allows them to run, your Spectrums and people like that are running wires from house to house, and go down in there, come out the other side. You can see this one has some strapping coming out of it. And what that is, it's actually pre-run through the conduit, so that when you're pulling stuff through, you can just pull the wire on through. So it makes it nice and convenient. So just a development piece to make things easier down the road. Anything we can do ahead of time while this is just dirt makes it easier. We don't have to dig things up once there's grass and concrete and everything else here. So that's it.